on different models of John Deere and Hagie sprayers. Learn about the newest technology, machine maintenance, spray tip selection, and more. We'll be offering free dicamba certification. Join us February 2nd and 3rd in Kearney. RSVP by calling your local Landmark location or at landmarkimp.com/events.
The captain, Vershawn Jackson.
Why is Marvin Harrison Jr. so much better than Malachi Coleman? Harrison Jr. as a dad.
Yes.
To teach him the nuances of the receiving position. That's what catapulted him. The know-how to teach him little stuff. He is raw as they come. I would imagine that the coaching staff know he's raw, and there has to be certain things that they're going to have to teach him in order for him to become the All-American that I think he can become if he's taught.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Partly sunny skies, mild temperatures expected again for our Tuesday, topping out at 53. Winds out of the south at around 10. We'll see an increase in cloud cover tonight with a low of 26. Mostly cloudy skies by tomorrow afternoon with a high of around 44 and a few showers possible by the evening. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
It's time for Outside the Box with Lincoln Stars head coach Rocky Russo and Lincoln Stars broadcaster Joel Norman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
And welcome in for another edition of Outside the Box here on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Joel Norman, and of course our show, as always, is being brought to you by Raising Cane's. Let's welcome in the head coach of the Lincoln Stars, Rocky Russo. And Rocky, how are you doing here tonight?
I'm doing well, Joel. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, as I imagine many Lincoln Stars fans are after this past weekend. A couple of victories over the Fargo Force and a matchup with the top two teams in the Western Conference, and the Stars came out and they came to play. 5-0 win last Friday, 3-2 victory last Saturday. All in all, a great weekend to be a Stars fan. And Rocky, what were some of your takeaways from this weekend and the sweep against Fargo?
You know what? The initial reaction is just what an environment in our building on Friday and Saturday night. And they weren't our biggest crowds, especially because the students at the university aren't back yet. But man, was it rowdy in that building this weekend. There was a lot of energy. You could feel it right away in the first period on Friday, and it kind of carried throughout the course of the game Friday, and another great crowd on Saturday. And for us, it's just such an advantage to be able to play in the ice box with the greatest fans in the USHL.
Perhaps we did our jobs last week, really building this matchup up last Tuesday, talking about the potential playoff significance of it at some point. And again, we didn't have to say too much. It was the top two teams in the USHL. And like you said, the Stars fans brought it. And I imagine Fargo is going to be looking forward to it the next time these two teams match up next month at Fargo. So two great wins for the Stars, and they put themselves now, you guys are just 4 points back of that first place spot. A lot of season to go right now, but it's one of those things, Rocky, and I'm sure you've probably had this happen for and maybe against you sometimes, that if you dig yourselves a hole or if you build up a good enough lead at this point in the season, it really goes a long way the rest of the way, because there are a lot of games left, but you've got to start adding games one way or another right now.
Well, we've got 34 games left, I think. So it's a long season. We haven't even reached the halfway point. The points count just the same in December as they do in February, March, and April. So you want to collect as many of those as you can. Not that we're in danger of this year, but we ran away with it in Amarillo a couple years ago, and we're so far ahead in February, there was nothing to play for. And that made the challenge of the playoffs pretty difficult. We ended up in 2 5-game series, and were worn down when we finally got to the national tournament. We had a guy chasing the league record for most goals in a single season, which he achieved. He scored 60 goals in 60 games that year.
60 and 60.
But that was the same year that Tampa got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs against Columbus. And listening to John Cooper's press conference after the conclusion of that series, he just echoed all the things that I was thinking, that we we didn't have much to play for a couple months. We got focused on individual records and weren't able to really be ramped up and prepared for playoff hockey. Fortunately, that's not going to happen this year. We want to be soundly in a playoff spot. In a perfect world, we'd be in a scenario where we have a chance to have home playoff games in the second round, to have a bye in the first round. Ultimately, one of our goals as a team is to win the Western Conference regular season title, and so the more of those points that you can scoop up early, the better chance you have if you do hit a little bit of a skid at some point throughout the season, that you've got a bit of a cushion.
We'll talk about this obviously as we get into warmer temperatures, although it's been fairly mild as of late. But when we get to that point later in the season, but how nice would that be to just have that first round bye? Because last year you guys had a really quick turnaround from the end of the regular season to the first round, just one day off in between, correct?
No, it was the worst schedule ever. Don't get me started on the schedule again. We already wasted a whole show on that 2 weeks ago, but it was awful. I mean, we played on Saturday and then our playoffs started on Monday. And, I'll never understand, as good as this league is, and this league is fantastic, like we work so hard, we play 62 games and you grind, and then all of a sudden you have, it feels like they're meaningless playoff series early on in the playoff. You play a 3-game series on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you work too hard to get to the playoffs for it to kind of end the way it does. So I guess it's worth it if you make it all the way to the end, but if you don't, you just feel like, I sat back after we lost last year and I felt cheated. Like, we had worked so hard. We won 35 games. We finished in third place in the Western Conference. Just barely missed a first round bye, and boom, 3 days later the season's over. And so that's a challenge, and it doesn't feel like, it feels like it should be more, because the playoffs are built up in every sport, right? And I think the fans deserve more. I think the players deserve more, but those are certainly not decisions that reach my level. They go much higher than that.
Yeah, 1 year at a time, I suppose, in that regard as well. You mentioned individual achievements earlier. I want to go back to that a little bit. One guy who was really shining. We've got several guys to talk about, but first I want to start with the captain. Mason Marcellus leads the USHL in assists, and I mentioned it to him the other day, and I said, were you aware of this by chance? You had 2 more again tonight, and he said, someone mentioned it earlier today, but otherwise I didn't. What is he doing so well right now to rack up so many apples?
Well, he's so poised with the puck. He's able to be patient. He's able to be elusive, and he passes pucks on the tape and passes them into space when he needs to, and he's able to head fake and turn his hands and get D to bite, and then make plays in traffic that create scoring chances. Now, I know he's got 33 points in 25 games. He's got maybe 6 goals. So he's probably got 26 or 27 assists, somewhere around
right
there.
About at that.
Where you would know, maybe you don't know, like, is he on pace for Aiden Thompson's numbers from last year? I mean,
I'd have to look into that a little bit more.
Like, Aiden Thompson was an assist machine last year.
Oh yeah, he has the Stars single season record for that now.
Yes.
So
and I'm sure that Mason would love to make that record quickly fall in 1 year. But that number that Aiden put up last year was pretty impressive. I mean, he had 83 points in 62 games, and he probably missed a couple games, so probably more like 58 or 60 games, because I remember him having an upper body injury for a game or two. So I don't know if Mason can get there, but even if he doesn't, his numbers are they're fantastic. When you're over a point a game in the USHL, you're quite a hockey player.
Let me ask you about this thing, because they were line mates a lot last year as well. What elements do you maybe see that Mason may have picked up from Aiden Thompson's game that have led to so much success this season?
You know what? Aiden is incredibly poised with the puck. He's a fierce competitor. Like, he hates to lose at anything. And I tell this story all the time, but Henry Nelson beat him in golf by a stroke during training camp last year. And in the playoffs, I was still listening to Aiden complain about the fact that Henry had beat him by a stroke. Now, mind you, Aiden is an elite golfer, and Henry is an all-state golfer. I mean, these guys are the real deal when they hit the course. And so, I mean, Aiden does not want to lose in anything ever. He's one of the most competitive kids I've ever had the opportunity to coach. And I think that rubbed off a little bit on Mason, because Mason is a fierce competitor during a game. And, you know, their line mate was Lucas Wallen, and Lucas Wallen would run his grandmother over for a puck in the corner. That's just the type of kid he is. And he'd pick her up and he'd give her a hug and tell her how much he loved her after he scored the goal. But he would
get the goal first.
He would get the goal first. Like, that's just Lucas. Lucas willed his way. Like, Lucas's story is incredible, right? He played tier 3 in North Iowa for our NA3HL team. He played in Kenai River. All of a sudden, he just shows up at our camp. Well, we invited him, but he shows up at our camp as a free agent. He makes the team and moves from the 4th line to the 3rd line to the 2nd line to the 1st line to the power play to an incredible leader, and gets a Division I scholarship. I mean, they should make a movie about that kid. So, and his compete level is off the charts. So I think if you're Mason and you're playing with those two guys last year, I don't think that you can play with them unless you develop that same type of mentality.
Yeah, it's been so fun to watch the way he's just able to read plays this season, and he's set up Tanner Ludke and Doug Grimes so much. And, you know, Rocky, these last couple of weeks, it felt really refreshing to see that line work again. The success they've had, and obviously you put them on the top power play unit as well. As a coach, how nice is that sometimes to be able to go back to something familiar like that? You get a couple of guys who were gone. Doug was hurt. Tanner Ludke was gone at the World Junior A Challenge. How nice is it to reinsert those guys back into the lineup and honestly maybe see them have a little bit more success than they were before they were gone?
Well, you'll probably recall that I had broke them up before all of the chaos ensued of Doug being injured and Tanner leaving, and Mason was injured for a period of time. People sometimes look at the coach like they're crazy when they see all the success that those 3 guys are having, and then you take them apart. But there's reason behind everything that you do as a head coach. And sometimes you're not seeing that same compete level out of those guys. They start to get a little complacent, and they need a reminder of how much they enjoy playing with each other. And so taking them away from each other helps. There's another element of, yes, they're great together, but imagine if you had one on all 3 of your top 4 lines. Like, how much more depth and skill does that create? And so you're always looking for something better when it comes to your line combinations. If you're not truly doing your job. You're getting a little stale. And so I'm always reviewing and watching our guys practice, watching them playing the games, watching the tape, looking for little tendencies from guys that says, hey, he may mesh well with him. Or, you know, if you see me throwing some random lines together throughout the course of a game, sometimes that's out of necessity with guys in the box. Sometimes it's me going, hey, he's got the hot hand tonight. I'm going to throw him a shift with these 2 guys, see how that works out. And then, you know, I see something happen during that shift. It sticks in the back of my brain. Maybe that's a line that would work. And, you know, I've got another line together right now that's been apart from each other for quite some time that you'll see play together on Friday night that I suspect will enjoy their company together on that line and probably produce a lot of offense. So we'll see. You know, would I love to see those 3 guys go to the end of the season together and help us win a championship? Yes. But I did tell them, if you recall, at the beginning of the year, I've never had a line go wire to wire together from the start of the season to the end. And you know, they kind of challenged me on it and said that they were going to do it. And obviously, you know, 18 years of experience says that wasn't going to happen. But I would have been happy to be proved wrong in that scenario, no question about it. But I'm glad they're back together. I know they're having a lot of success, and more importantly, they're having a lot of fun together. And I think that helps breed that success because they enjoy each other They challenge each other, and they want to go out and help carry our team.
Hard not to. The way they were playing this weekend, 2 goals from Doug Grimes, 2 goals from Tanner Ludke. Mason, he's had a few goals this year, but boy, it just feels like a given every night. We're going to get a few assists from him. Rocky, I like that you teased another line maybe coming up. Huge for the radio industry, as everyone knows. You always want to tease something coming up.
For all I know, Anthony Noreen could be sitting at home while listening to this right now. I doubt it, but I'd be lying if I said that I haven't clicked on his radio interviews from time to time.
I was just going to say, he has a radio show too.
He does. And so, if he happens to be on the treadmill tomorrow listening to this, I don't need to give him any insider information.
Yeah.
So our fans will just have to wait and see what those combinations look like on Friday night.
No ammunition for the enemy is Harrison.
Yeah, and then real quick, we do have from the text line wanting to know a little bit more about the past from Dr. Gates. Coach, what were some of your favorite things about Amarillo?
My favorite things about Amarillo.
You've mentioned it a few times on this show, and you've had some pretty funny memories there. So I'm curious about this as well.
I mean, first of all, I just, so when I took the job, I took it sight unseen, and my dad drove me to. I left St. Louis. I left all my stuff in St. Louis. I went home to Youngstown. My dad drove me to Toledo, where Dennis Williams, gold medal winning coach for Canada at the World Juniors last week, Dennis and his brother Dave picked me up in Toledo, drove me to St. Louis, where I was able to pick my rental vehicle up, put all of my stuff in it, drive it to Amarillo, unload. And so as I'm driving into town, I called my dad, and he's like, "Oh, you're getting close." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What do you see?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "You could watch the dog run away for 50 miles here. There's not a tree. There's not a shred of grass." I said, "There's a giant field of broken down school buses." I said, "Dad, I don't know where the heck I moved." And so the next day I'd gone to practice and driving around town trying to find my way, and I stopped at a stoplight, and there's a Dairy Queen next to me. It's around 12:30, and I turned my head, and there's 2 guys on horses coming out of the Dairy Queen drive-thru, and they go up over the overpass down to the outer road, and down they go with their bags of Dairy Queen. And I went back to the office. I'm talking to one of the guys in the office, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's the old Smith farm down there off Route 27. Yeah, they go and buy the guy's Dairy Queen once a week. That's totally normal here in Amarillo." So, then the following day, I have 2 dogs, so I take the dogs outside, and there was like a sewer drain outside in our apartment complex, and standing out there, and I'm like, "My God, what is that smell?" I hope that sewer doesn't smell like that. It's right outside my door. And there's an old guy sitting upstairs, and he goes, "How you doing there, fella?" And I said, "Hey, sir, how you doing?" He's drinking a cup of coffee. And I said, "If you don't mind me asking," I said, "what is that smell?" And he goes, "Well, by golly, son, that's the smell of money." And I said, "The smell of money? I got $20 in my pocket. Doesn't smell like that. That smells like the inside of a toilet." And he goes, "Well, around here, that's the smell of money. See, down there about 30 miles is the meat packing plant. And when the wind blows the wrong way, you can smell all that going on in that plant." He said, "But that's where all the money comes from. So we call that the smell of money." And so fast forward, at that point, 8 years, I'm down there for a press conference, accepting the head coaching job. And I've got Melissa, who at the time was my girlfriend, then fiance, obviously now my wife. And we're going to look at houses. And I'm like, "God, please just don't smell. Whatever. Just please don't smell."
Didn't want the smell
so
of money.
I had like 12 houses set up for us to look at that day. And it's about 9:00, and it's starting to get warm. And we walk out of this house, and we're halfway down the driveway, and she goes, "What the hell is that smell?" And I just looked, and I'm like, "Man, I thought I'd get out." I said, that's the smell of money." She goes, "Well, it ain't the smell of money. I don't know what that is, but what is that? You want me to move here? Are you kidding me?"
Oh my gosh.
So obviously now I have nothing but fond memories. Great people there. we won a national championship in 2013. We went to in my 7 years there, we went to 4 national tournaments. I have some great friends from there. I love the state of Texas. I loved coaching in the South Division. I loved going to Corpus Christi and Shreveport, Louisiana, and enjoying pretty nice weather all throughout the course of the winter time. It's a fantastic league with really good coaching and great players. And so my entire 7 years that I spent there were fantastic. And, I was sad to leave. I was really sad to leave. And had I had to leave in different circumstances, I probably would have been pretty bummed. But knowing that I was moving to Lincoln, Nebraska, and moving on to the United States Hockey League was really exciting. And, now here we are in Lincoln, and my wife absolutely loves this town, and we love coaching in this league. So it's been a blessing and a new adventure.
What's it been like for you being in several different markets? You coach in Texas, you've coached in, Philadelphia area, Pennsylvania as well. You grew up in Ohio. You're in Nebraska here. What's that like, seeing lots of different markets? You think that's good, not just, as a person, but also as a coach in a lot of ways?
It takes you to places that you would not probably ever be. And, like I said, I took that job sight unseen in Amarillo, and I can't think of any reason under the sun why I ever would move to Amarillo. I don't even find a reason why. Maybe it's one of those flyover places, right? And why I would ever be there. But now I can't imagine my life without that experience in Amarillo. Obviously, 4 years in Philadelphia and a wife and 2 kids because of it. That's, I'm a believer that you have a path set out for you, and you might not understand where or why that path takes you, but you have to trust in it. And every place I've been has helped me grow as a person. And I've developed not just as a coach, but more importantly, I've been through great times. I've been through hard times, and they develop your character. So, Philly was a great experience. St. Louis, although it was only 1 year, was a great experience. I made some great friends there. Got to go to a lot of Blues games. Got to play morning shinny with Rob McInnes and Scott Mellenby and Darren Pang. And, those were awesome experiences. Al McInnes, pardon me, Rob's his brother. Rob's actually from Philly. Rob lives in Philly. But Al was in St. Louis. Kelly Chase, Jeff Brown, like those guys were awesome. So my experience in St. Louis, incredible. I never would have lived in probably St. Louis. I never would have lived in Lincoln, Nebraska. And, I said to my wife when I kind of said, hey, like, we're going to do this. We're going to go to Amarillo. And, she was like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. And I said, we're probably going to have to move 3, 4, 5 times before we maybe find a place to settle. And, she understood it. And, when we first got together, it was, hey, I'm just going to try to find a Division III job and settle us down. And then I think we both looked at each other and kind of like, hey, like, you might be pretty good at this. And I had won a ton of games in Philly, but, maybe this can take us a little bit higher than we had anticipated. And, now here we are sitting in the USHL, and we have no aspirations of leaving anytime soon. We love Lincoln. We love the Stars and the organization, but, one day, hopefully it takes us to the next level, whether that be Division I college hockey, potentially major junior hockey, potentially, not that I believe major junior is a step up, but, just an alternative path, maybe pro hockey. Brock Sheehan just got the head job with the Chicago Wolves. And, he had to win 2 Clark Cups to do that, but he did it. John Cooper got a head job in the American League out of this league. So, if you get a chance to get to the American League as a head coach, certainly that's something that, now you're a step away from the NHL. And so when I look at it, originally, I never thought that, some of these things were in reach, and this league and this opportunity creates chances for players and coaches alike to reach levels that maybe they didn't feel were attainable at one point in their career.
Yeah, I think that's the thing for me, which is so fun. You're seeing these people right now. It's like, well, where are they going to be 5 years from now as well? And that's what I'm looking forward to in years from now.
Well, and I mean, the guy that sat in that chair last year, he's working in Savannah now with the Ghost Pirates and the East Coast Hockey League, and they're directly affiliated with the Vegas Golden Knights. So, he's got an opportunity to continue to work his way up and hopefully find his way to the National Hockey League. And I think that's what this league does for players, coaches, personnel. It's a wonderful opportunity, and certainly not one that I take for granted. I'm very humbled to be the head coach of the Lincoln Stars, and I appreciate every opportunity I have to step behind that bench in the icebox.
Absolutely. We'll take a quick break here, and we'll be back with more in just a bit. This is Outside the Box. We're chatting Lincoln Stars hockey, all being brought to you by Raising Cane's here on 93.7 The Ticket.
I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. The best way to strengthen our economy for the long term is investing in our education system and raising the skills of American workers. To succeed in the global economy, we need to modernize our schools, hire excellent teachers, and focus on the future. Support great public schools, and we can make the good life even better.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Veterans, do you know what local, state, and federal benefits and services you're eligible to receive? Do you want help navigating the application or appeals process? Speak to your county veteran service officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. You've served our country, now let us serve you. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I wanted to quit for so long, but I didn't know where to start.
I was afraid of what people would think, but then I found the right support to start my recovery journey. 1 in 14 Americans reports experiencing a substance use disorder, a treatable medical condition. Treatment can take many forms, so there are a variety of options to explore. Find the one that works best for you. Recovery from drug addiction is possible.
Paid for by the CDC, sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People's City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Are you a veteran looking for a new companion animal? A dog, a cat, or maybe something else? The Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs Vets Get Pets program can cover up to $350 of your pet adoption fees. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov/vets specialty license. Sponsored by the Nebraska Affairs, Nebraska Broadcasters Association, and this station.
A lot of work goes into making Nebraska, Nebraska. Keeping it green. Helping it thrive. making it fun. Everything that goes into caring for our outdoors, from waters to wildlife, plays a big role in making Nebraska home. Learn how we help conserve our state's natural resources at outdoornebraska.org.
Paid for by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now. In our new time, we're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
It's time for Outside the Box with Lincoln Stars head coach and Lincoln Star Joel Norman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticket.com.
Welcome back into Outside the Box, being brought to you by Raising Cane's here on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Joel Norman, Lincoln Stars broadcaster. We're joined by a couple of our special guests, as I mentioned to him a moment ago. First time the guy's been on here twice this season, goaltender Lucas Massey, and he's got some exciting news to share. We'll mention that in a moment, as well as Jack Severson, forward with the Stars. And guys, a great weekend for you last weekend. Now, Lucas, you weren't in on the action, of course, but let's talk about it. How big was that to get a couple of wins against Fargo, a team who was, they entered the weekend 8 points ahead of you guys in the standings. You guys have split that gap. It's just a 4-point deficit right now. How gigantic was that? I'll start with you, Jack.
Yeah, I haven't played in that type of atmosphere yet this year. I think it kind of started with the week of practice, the week leading up to it. There was felt like there was something different on the ice during that week and in the locker room. I think everybody just kind of felt it. Obviously, the battle between 1 and 2 in any league or any division is a pretty big matchup. So I think everybody was feeling it going in, and I think we just got the better of them this weekend, and we're looking to keep that moving forward.
Lucas, like I mentioned, you weren't in net, but what were some things you noticed from those? Because you faced Fargo and you had a great outing against them back at the beginning of December.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what Steves was saying, we were just very prepared. I think Whitey had an outstanding weekend, obviously. It's pretty criminal that he didn't get goalie of the week there.
I thought so, too.
Yeah, like Whitey had a great game. I think we stuck to our identity as far as sustained offensive zone time, our work ethic, getting pucks behind the D, things Rocky harps on every single day. And, sometimes we don't do the best of following it, but if that's something we can keep going, it'll be huge for us.
One thing he said to me was it felt like you guys got back to your identity. And you mentioned some of those characteristics right there. Was that something he mentioned to you guys in the locker room after the games, Jack?
Yeah. As of late, sometimes on Saturday nights we've been struggling as far as playing consistent, playing the full 60 minutes. And then this weekend, he talked a lot about getting back to our identity. We met earlier in the week as a team, and we talked about what that is to just kind of rehinder some of those points. And it's a lot of playing fast, breaking the puck out, making sure that we play predictable. And what I mean by that is everybody knows where they're going to be so that there's no confusion there on the ice for their teammates. And I think this past weekend we got back to that. And then obviously the scoreboard showed that, I thought.
Yeah, take me guys, I think take fans too, but into like the locker room in a situation like this. They hear team meetings, and that's a very much just the team. It's you guys, the coaches, assistant coaches. What's that like? Lucas, you've been through here all season long. Take us through what that's like.
Yeah, well, so it's different every time. Sometimes it'll be just the players. Sometimes the coaches will have us sit down. Obviously, we're a very tight group. It's been that way since the beginning of the year. We sometimes you have to sit yourself down and you have to take a look at what exactly is going wrong. We had a rough stretch for a little bit. We've been going through some ups and downs. So I just think, as far as team meetings go, you just dissect and get to the bottom of, what's going on, whether that's with just the boys or the coaches have to come in and harp on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's for me. It's obviously. I think sometimes people hear team meeting and thinking, "Oh boy, this could be
Right.
something severe." But no, they're very normal. You guys are
Right.
doing those a lot, whether it's like you mentioned, just players or just the coaches and players as a whole. Now, Jack, you mentioned a moment ago about some of these struggles in these Saturday games. Sometimes that has been an issue. Sometimes I think that was what happened last Saturday with the Tri-City game prior to the weekend with Fargo. You had I think it was that 5-1 victory over Omaha the night before. You fall the next night 6-1. What was the coaching staff's message to you guys going into this Saturday after you picked up just a gigantic 5-0 shutout win this past Friday?
Yeah, I think Coach Russo talked about, great teams win on Saturdays, and to be a championship team, you have to be able to win back-to-back nights. It's really hard in this league to win both Friday and Saturday. Obviously after playing a game the night before, sometimes the bodies are beat up. The mind maybe isn't as sharp. Maybe not everybody is as ready to go on Saturday, but that's what makes the Clark Cup championship team a special team, is because they can win on any given night.
Yeah, it's certainly a challenge. I think you have the whole week, but then you go right into back-to-back, and that's tough. A hockey game in general, I think you could warrant a week off after. Would you guys agree? I mean, football does that. I wonder sometimes with hockey, you could almost warrant a week in between games as well. But a different mindset. We'll call it that with the two sports. So I wanted to touch on this, Lucas. Part of the reason we had you on here tonight was you had some really exciting news that you revealed today. You want to spill the beans here? You've already done so on social media, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I went out to Union College for a visit, and I actually committed early this morning. Something I'm super, super excited about. It's an amazing school, an amazing hockey program, academically and, as far as producing pros. So it's something I'm super pumped about.
Now, you are one of two stars who's now committed to play at Union College. DJ Hart is the other one. Did he sell you at all? Once he made his commitment last month, he said, come on, I know you're talking. Let's do it together next year or the year after.
He definitely helped me make my decision. I was picking his brain while the recruiting process was going on. Obviously, he had nothing but great things to say. Love DJ. Definitely influenced it a bit. Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of neat how that worked out. How exciting is it now to have that decision figured out? Because that's something I think every junior player, if you haven't made already, it's something you're working toward through the course of a season.
Absolutely. It's honestly something you dream about every day since, from the time you're 6 years old, 10 years old, whenever you begin to understand, the rookie. And it's nice to have it out of the way, and it's nice to be locked up with such an amazing program. Again, I'm super, super excited, and it's good now that I can really just be 100% where my feet are in Lincoln, focus on this team this year, and our goal is obviously to win the Clark Cup. So
absolutely. Yeah. We're chatting here with Lucas Massey, a goaltender for the Stars, as well as forward Jack Severson here on Outside the Box, being brought to you by Raising Cane's. The Stars won a couple of games last weekend against Fargo, and they're taking on Tri-City this coming weekend. Now, Jack, you're one of the relatively newer players to the Stars. You've been here about a month or so, right? Since the last time you came in. What's that adjustment period been like? Because you were kind of thrown to the wolves early on. We tossed you right out in community events immediately, so you get those service hours. You got right into the lineup as well. What's that been like for your month here in Lincoln?
Yeah, it's I've loved it actually so far. My billets were super welcoming, as well as the team. I knew a couple of the guys coming in here. I got to play with Adam Kleber last year in high school.
Both Chaska
boys.
Yeah. So I knew a couple of the guys coming in that I've played with, Tanner Ludke, before as well. So I didn't get to see Tanner right when I showed up, so it was a little overwhelming meeting a whole new team without, necessarily having my buddies there. But I don't know. I was very fortunate to get that call to be able to come here. Working at Freddy's, I actually really enjoyed.
That was a fun community event.
It was something different.
You weren't as good on the custard. We learned that day. You struggled a little bit with the custard machine.
I think I should stick to flipping the burgers.
You were good with that.
Doing the ice cream, probably. Yeah, definitely. But I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Take fans through your journey this season. You were with 3 different North American Hockey League teams prior to just joining the Stars.
Yep.
How did that even happen? Explain to fans, peel back the curtain on your year so far.
Yeah, so I'll start in the summer, this past summer. I didn't really have any plans as where I was going. I wasn't tendered. I wasn't drafted in either league, USHL or North American League. So I went to some camps that I got invited to by some of the scouts, and they just told me to come try and make the team and stuff like that. I started in Cedar Rapids camp, didn't make that. Then I went and I tried out for the Minnesota Wilderness, didn't make their team right away, which is funny, and I'll get back to that in a little bit. But then I went to Minot's, and they were waiting to offer me a spot at training camp just to see where their chips fell. I don't know if that was going to happen or not, but it is what it is. And then the next week I went to Oklahoma City's camp, and they invited me to training camp. So I took that, and I went and started the year in Oklahoma City. I was there for about 2.5 weeks, and then I left and ended up playing for the Minnesota Wilderness, which is kind of ironic, after they cut me at their main camp. But I played the showcase with them and played their first 2 regular season games, and then they traded me to North Iowa. So I left Minnesota and went to North Iowa and was there for a little while, got injured for about a month, and then after 2 weekends out of injury, 3 weekends, something like that, I got the opportunity to come here. And I've been here since.
I imagine you've been really good at packing. You know where everything goes in the bags at this point.
Pretty much.
Maybe I can leave this behind, or I don't need that anymore. How good are you at that at this point?
Yeah, the car has been packed to the brim a couple times, and I've left some stuff at my home in Minnesota this time. Definitely something next year I'm probably going to do right off the start. But yeah, packing becomes a little bit of a normal for me in that first half. So hopefully I don't have to do it as much this half, but we'll see how it goes.
Lucas, what's it been like this year when you guys have added newcomers to the team? How do you welcome them aboard? Is there any sort of stuff they have to do early on?
It's easy. I mean, especially with a guy like Steves, high character individual, great guy, great player. It's 99% of the time it's easy. Guys are awesome. Obviously we had some guys out for World Juniors and guys out with injury, so call-ups have been in and out. But I'm glad Steve has been here for a while, so it's usually easy.
In the last month or so, the Stars, between yourself, acquiring you, adding some replacement players, affiliates into the lineup, the one thing that I was enjoying at the start of each road trip was when guys got on the bus and the newcomers, it's how they were trying to remember or figure out where they were going to be sitting. There were some guys who went back a little further than they should, other guys who, hey, just tell me where to go. I just want to see. That's kind of seemed like that's what you did, Jack. What was your approach that each time you joined a new team, you get on the bus and it's like, wait a second here, where am I sitting?
Yeah, so obviously I'm probably a little more used to it by now than most guys are, but you let the team do their thing. You're kind of the oddball out for a little while till you get everything figured out and get closer with the guys. So you see what they're doing, and maybe you don't want to be the first one on the bus. Maybe you want to be towards the back so that you can see where everybody else sits first, so you don't take anybody's spot. But yeah, I've been through it a couple times this year. So you kind of just let the team do their thing and sit where nobody else is sitting and try not to get in the way pretty much. So.
I won't name who it was, but I think it was the last road trip. Someone was kind of told, hey, you're getting a little too far back here. It's like, you're moving up. Again, I'm not going to mention, I know you guys though from our laps, but that was a funny moment I enjoyed from the last one. We'll take a quick break here. We'll continue our chat with Lucas Massey and Jack Severson here in a moment. This is Outside the Box, being brought to you by Raising Cane's here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Every child has the ability to be successful and thrive in life, but sometimes they need help. Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Lincoln exists to help children unlock their potential, making meaningful matches between adult volunteers and young people. Right now, there are children just waiting for a mentor to step up and make an impact in their lives. Learn more online at bbbslincoln.org. Kids right here in Lincoln waiting to get started. Volunteer today and start something big.
Victor deployed first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action. Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time. I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veteran guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make vaping is not safe for youth.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs and dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine, which can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media.
Many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kid about the risks of vaping.
Sponsored by SAMHSA and Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When it comes to making, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. And when you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit. Make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
A smoke-free environment is the only way to fully protect from the dangers of secondhand smoke. That's why smoke-free policies are so important to me. Whether it's in my car, apartment building, or when I'm dining outdoors, there's no place for secondhand smoke or e-cigarette aerosol. Breathe easy knowing the fact. Visit smokefree.ne.gov. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska, the Nebraska Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Papa, why can't we telegraph while riding a horse?
Son, there ain't no one to blame but Jeffro. He was riding old Betsy the Stallion, tip-tapping away at his telegraph, when blam! Ran right into the system.
Well, if Jeffro can't do it, neither should you. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you want to come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
This is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Sandhills Global is hiring. Check out sandhills.jobs for more information. Sandhills is looking to fill hundreds of new openings in sales, traveling support, software development, web design, and more. Sandhills has a professional culture and is fast-paced with a focus on growth, innovation, and leading-edge technologies. Career and internship opportunities are available at headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. Apply today at sandhills.jobs.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
It's time for Outside the Box with Lincoln Stars head coach Rocky Russo and Lincoln Stars broadcaster Joel Norman on 90 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back again for segment number 3 of Outside the Box here on 93.7 The Ticket. As always, our show being brought to you by Raising Cane's. And don't forget, the Stars are at home this Saturday night. They will be taking on the Tri-City Storm on Star Wars night. Should be a lot of fun. You can get 4 tickets and 2 Star Wars-themed specialty pucks for that one for $65. As I mentioned, I'm Joel Norman. We're joined by Stars goaltender Lucas Massey and forward Jack Severson. I don't know if either of you guys are Star Wars people. I did a Star Wars trivia challenge with Antonio Fernandez and Cameron Whitehead today. Not going to reveal the results. You guys may have heard from them already.
I know who. I don't know. I haven't heard from them, but I think I know who won.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably an easy guess there.
But, we're going to be posting that video later this week, so watch for that on our social media. But that was a lot of fun. They were kind of getting excited, so
That's awesome.
Should be a lot of fun this coming Saturday night. Tri-City again. Team you guys have seen a lot. Now, Jack, you've in the last month have seen them a lot, especially. Yeah. Jack Severson probably assumes there's 3 teams in the USHL based on the Lincoln Star schedule, right? But for a situation like this, how you had a week off since the last time you faced them. You're facing them again this week. Do you like the opportunity that you guys are getting to face them again after that December 31st? Lucas, you're already nodding your head. You were in net that night too, so I imagine you're pretty ready to go.
Yeah, I think, obviously my last game against them wasn't a great individual outing. It happens. You move forward. You work on some things. So I'm excited to get another crack at them.
Jack, how about you? Like we said, you've seen them a lot already, so you've kind of been able. You probably remember a couple faces from them with how much we've seen them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Massey's taking a little too much out of himself. We played pretty poorly that game. There was a lot of odd man rushes, and I mean, if you let somebody score 16 seconds into the game, or what was it? Do you remember?
I think it was 24 seconds in, and they were both 2-on-1s in the first period. 2 2-on-1 goals. How can you fault any goaltender in a situation like that?
That's exactly what I mean. That happens, you can kind of see what's going to happen in that game. So I don't think Massey had anything to do with that at all. But yeah, I believe so far since I've been here, I've split with them evenly as far as a record. So, I mean, Tri-City's kind of had our number a little bit compared to some of the other teams in the division. So I think it's, after the weekend we had with Fargo, I think it's time for us to kind of take it to them.
It's interesting because the Stars won 3 of the first 4 games in the season series. And you guys weren't here. I wasn't here last year, but Lincoln lost 9 of 10 games to Tri-City last season. So they start the season 3-1 against them, but now the last few games has been a little tougher, where Tri-City's flipped the script. They've won 3 of the last 4. When you guys look at this coming weekend, you get 2 cracks at them, want to walk away with 4 points again. I'll go to both of you on what needs to be done this week to get those 4 points. I'll start with you guys.
Same as last week, our identity, play our way, dictate the pace of play, dictate, make the game happen. Don't let the game come to you. Don't let them dictate, we, again, like I said earlier, we tend to get away from it. It's just sticking with it, staying with our identity, playing our way.
What about you, Jack?
Yeah, the message in the locker room, it's always been our identity. I think compared to all the other teams I've played, we seem to get away from it the most against Tri-City, and I think it ends up showing on the scoreboard a little bit. So, but as far as the practices have gone these past couple weeks, I'm pretty confident that we're getting back to what that identity is. So I think this weekend's going to be a little different outcome than we've seen against Tri-City.
When you guys were there last, it was New Year's Eve. They had a big crowd that night. That was one of the bigger, I would say, non-Omaha road crowds we've been a part of, I think, this season. Whether or not that happens this weekend, how much does that excite you that the next time you're facing them is again at the same place, that we're going back, but we've got a chance to rewrite the script this time?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have some pretty crazy fans, kind of like we do. And yeah, there is a home ice advantage for sure. The fans give you extra energy, but I don't think it's something that, it's obviously not something you can let control you. And yeah, to win in their building is something that, at least for me, I don't have a win in that building yet. So it's definitely big for me personally. And obviously every game against them is huge for us. So,
Jack, something you mentioned earlier was this past weekend against Fargo. You said you really hadn't been part of games like that. And I was assuming you were alluding to something. I was thinking that it had that playoff feel to that. Is that how you felt about this past weekend's games?
Yeah, that's pretty much hit the hammer on the nail right there.
How exciting is that then? Like when the crowd's going like that, and I think both teams are fighting, knowing this is the team I've got to keep an eye on.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think atmosphere in hockey at the junior level is a lot different than it is at the high school level. I mean, being from Minnesota, I didn't play in the state tournament, but I'm assuming that if we exclude that, high school games aren't as into it as junior games are. I think being on the bench and hearing everybody, yell for a big hit or a block shot or something like that, it gives the home team a little bit of juice. So I think going back to that, we play in Tri-City on Friday night, I think we have a chip on our shoulder in that building. They have the home ice advantage, but we've struggled in that building so far. Maybe that has something to do with the home ice advantage, maybe not. But I think we got that ship coming on Friday night.
Yeah, it's been a fun season series, I think, from the spectator standpoint, because things have, like we said, Stars started hot and then it kind of evened up, and now it's, both teams are sitting, 4-4 against each other. So should be a huge weekend of hockey. As we mentioned, Friday night on the road, Lincoln at Tri-City, home on Saturday, a 6:05 p.m. game. Guys, thanks for joining us. Let's go get 4 points this weekend. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Jack Severson and Lucas Massey joining me. I'm Joel Norman. This has been Outside the Box, being brought to you by Raising Cane's, as always, on 93.7 The Ticket.